Are you ready? Okay. I imagine all this is recording, right? So you're seeing this, so I had better behave myself. This is me behaving myself when I'm really not sure if anybody's watching. But just in case you are, this is how I behave when nobody's watching. Oh, okay, no. Somewhere in that little silly soliloquy, that's a good word, isn't it? Silly soliloquy. We started broadcasting for real, so let's see if we can get going, okay? Day 2 on a painting. Now, I could give a whole bunch of descriptions, but I won't because I just waste all my time. I'm talking here about painting, oil painting, abstract realist painting, or impressionistic painting, as some people sometimes call it. The kind of painting where you could finish it in one day, but sometimes you don't. It's that kind of painting. And that's exactly the case here. Now, this is not actually... Hello, Claire. Good to have you on board. This is actually not the kind of painting where... hang on, I'm trying to get my other thing going here. This is not the kind of painting... no, this was actually not done yesterday. It was done last week, but this is day 2. So let's proceed. Here's what I want you to do. Here's what if you're a painter, I've got a couple rules for this kind of thing. Are you with me? One is you have to... hang on, I'm trying to get subscribed on my other channel so they can catch all of your comments. Is that fair enough? I want to catch all of your comments, and I'm not doing it. Hang on, a little bit of patience needed. I'm sorry to say. Again, this is so that hopefully I can catch all of your comments. Now it says here I should be able to watch myself. Hi Jane, thanks for joining me. There we go. Okay, now I've got 2 screens up there. Hopefully I won't miss so many comments. All right, day 2. The key issue here is this painting is completely dry. That's very important. Now, if you're an artist, here's what you must say on day 2. This sounds funny, but for most of you, I am dead serious. Here's what you have to say about your painting. Well, I really like it so far. Okay? Now, there's a few of you that I don't have to tell you that. Some of you really do like your paintings, and good for you. But I'm talking to a whole bunch of painters out there that kind of sort of really don't like your painting, and you are so accustomed to beating yourself up. And I'm trying to get you out of that dreadful, terrible, painful habit that you're in of saying bad things about your paintings. Okay? That is not a good way to paint. So, again, at this point, day 2 of the painting, you're supposed to start out by saying, well, I do really like it quite a bit. But, there's a big but coming. Well, I don't know if it's a big but. That's you, huh? Yeah, that's a lot of you guys, Claire. Thanks for admitting it. But you must say, I like it, but. And then here's the but. You say, I like it, but I wish that it was a little more blank. Okay, now here, the blank is very particular. It's not just any old blank. It's, I like it, but I wish it was a little more, and the blank is a color, is a hue. Red, yellow, green, orange, purple, violet, one of the primary or secondary colors, okay? So for instance, I'm looking at my painting today and I say, I like it. And by the way, I really do. I like it, but I wish it were a little warmer. Or, for those of you who prefer, I wish it were a little more orange, yellow, brown maybe. Got it? Okay, so that's what I want. By the way, you'll notice that the painting, as it is right now, is quite a cool painting. Cool blue, well, it's a warm blue, but it's coolish. It's blue, cool green. Again, it's a warm green, but it's green, so it's still on the cool side of the spectrum. This area down here is warm. So this is very typical for me when I say I really like it, but, and then the color that I name is often other side of the color wheel from where you normally, I'm trying to do things at one time. The other side of the color wheel from where it's at right now. I need to set something on my my other phone here. It does not, it's not, it says it does not live chat. There we go. Okay, there we go. I think I've got it set now. Again, for those of you who are joining me, hello, Bobo Pop, good to see you again. I'm trying to set up a separate screen, and I had it set up, but it wasn't showing chat comments. So again, sorry for those of you who are joining me in this learning curve. Okay, so I like this painting. I like it, but I wish it was warmer. So I'm picking up some French yellow, Indian yellow, sorry, and some oxide red mixed together. Very common for me. Let's see what that looks like. As I thought, way too yellow. Now, you understand, don't you, that everything I've done here is completely, let me just demonstrate for a moment. I'm not upset by this, by the way, but if I were upset by this, this is what I would do. I just dipped my rag, that's not a brush, that's a rag, dipped my rag in Gamsol. Actually, that's quite a nice effect right there. If I could continue to wipe until everything I just did disappeared. Now, I think you understand that. By the way, I just threw out that rag. It's not worth keeping a rag that's dipped in Gamsol. I think you understand that, but I really want you to see it. The reason this is so fun, day 2 of a painting is always so fun, is because everything here is dry. So it's impervious to anything I do to it. Now, just hang on. I want you to understand that just because I'm painting this one color right now does 2 things. Doesn't mean I have to leave it on there. I almost certainly will use a rag in a few minutes to lift some of this off, but it also doesn't mean that I can only use one color. Don't think, I have to glaze it one color. No. You can glaze it any number of colors you want. I want to make that clear. I know that's, some of you are thinking, man, I'm a lot smarter than that. Good. But somebody else watching would have been stuck there. They would have thought I was insinuating that you have to paint the entire canvas with just one color, and that is certainly not the case. Now, no sooner do I say that than, in fact, yes, I'm going. I am. Sorry, I've got a little cold. I am going to, in fact, probably cover the entire canvas with one color glaze. But I'm going to come back in just a minute and do other glazes on top of this. Again, pretty standard procedure for me in the way I paint. Now, again, just a little bit of the psychology behind what I'm doing here. I know some of you are like me and some are not, but those of us who like to finish a painting in one day, and of course, when I'm out doing an event painting, very often I have no choice whatsoever. I have to finish the painting right there on the spot because it's going to be sold. It's going to be auctioned off right there at the event. So many times I have no choice. But even if I'm not at a live event, I really do like to finish a painting in one day. So I'm always, if you understand what I'm going to say here, I'm always mildly disappointed when I don't finish a painting, right? Like, oh, got to go back and do it again, right? So that's the disappointment side. So in order to mitigate or go against that disappointment, I give myself, yeah, but I'm sad because it's day 2. I have to finish another day. Oh, but happy, ooh, I get to glaze it. You see the excitement? Because this is one of the the breakable laws of painting, which says, ain't a color made that don't look better with something else on top of it. You know, why on earth I have to say it in that butchered, colloquial manner, I'm not sure, but it's a mnemonic device. For some reason, it's just easier to remember. And I want you, if you're gonna remember this principle, I want you to quote me. Ain't a color made, or ain't a color made that don't look better with something else on top of it. I've explained that many times before. I don't feel like explaining it again right now, so I'll just leave it. Now, I did, as you saw, a warm orange, yellow, brown glaze over the entire canvas. I am now doing purple or violet. This is the third corner. I don't know that I'm going to do all four corners, but I might. Won't know till I finish. Yes, I am. As a matter of fact, I'm going to do violet in all four. Now, my first glaze was yellow-orange. Second is violet. Absolute opposite side of the color wheel. You got that? Complementary. You could also say here in the four corners, I am anti-yellowing the painting by making it purple. But I don't want it to look purple necessarily. I'm just anti-yellowing it or de-yellowifying it. If you want even more silly made-up words. De-yellowifying it. I'm now doing some purple here in the middle of the painting, yeah? And now I'm actually going to do a little bit, and I'm not cleaning my brush, I like the dirtiness of the brushes going on right now, if you will. So I've mixed up some red and some Indian yellow and some Scarlet Lake. I'm actually intensifying the redness in this part of the painting. Isn't that crazy? I mean, it's already crazy, counterintuitive for there to be red and orange in the Statue of Liberty. Now, if you were here, you would have to go back a whole week, but it's only Daily Art Adventure number 279 or 78. You know, just come to my channel and scroll back a couple. You can see me starting this painting. Now, this is my second Statue of Liberty painting in a row. And again, I explained why in the last. But if you want to know why is this all red down here, you need to go back, and if you want to get the answer to that question, go back to my couple Daily Art Adventures ago, and I explain that in considerable detail why that's red. Now, I'm thinking, because of all this red down here, I'm still, again, I'm glazing, right? Anything I do, I can wipe off. Part of the reason also, besides ain't a color made that don't look better with something else, in other words, transparent glazes always look better than before you put them on. That's part of the reason this is so fun. Another reason this stage right here is so much fun is because it's so safe. I can't tell you how many painters groups I've been at where one of my fellow painters puts up a painting here, and he or she is, you know, scratching their chin, groaning, moaning sometimes, saying, I don't know what to do here. And I try not to say this all the time because I sound like a broken record. I say, all it needs is a glaze. Or a couple, and when I say glaze, you know, I mean plural. I don't mean one color, but all it needs is some glazes. Look how easy this is. But one of the reasons this is so fun is because it's it is so safe. Anything I don't like, I can wipe off completely in just a few minutes. So this is a good time to experiment. Like right now, I'm experimenting pretty radically with this yellow-orange, red-orange up here in this corner, kind of counter to that corner. You with me? So I'm going, what it would look like if I really pushed the red up in this corner. So I'm finding out what it looks like, but if I did, and so far I'm liking it. If I didn't like it, what do? Wipe it off. Get it? So that's really my answer to the question, how to tackle a painting on day 2. The answer is glazes. The answer is Yahoo, fun with glazes. And transparent colors are always, now, I go in my book, Breakable Laws of Painting, which, by the way, hopefully real soon I'm going to offer the first 26, 27 pages for a real cheap deal. In my book, I go to great length to explain this concept and defend this phrase. Transparent colors are always not a matter of opinion, not up for debate. It's a matter of mathematics and physics. A transparent color is always more interesting or more physics-ish, physics class. In the physicality, it's always more complex or rich than an opaque color. Our eyes are attracted to transparent colors. Now, hang on a second. Does that mean a finished painting should be 100% transparent color? My answer is no, because even though transparent is more interesting, you with me? A painting that, let's have two paintings side by side. One, following my counsel, is entirely transparent color. The other one is mostly transparent with a little bit of opaque areas. Which painting is more interesting? Now, the answer is B, the one that is mostly transparent with little bits of opacity. Get it? So you always, in my opinion, if you want the most interesting painting possible, you should always have some opaque, in your finished painting, you should have some opaque colors. But if you want your painting to be good, it should be mostly transparent colors. And again, that is not a matter of opinion. It's not up for debate. It's a matter of physics, and I describe. And I've got a formula. An opaque color is a 1B color. You have to read my book to find out what this means. Opaque is 1B. Transparent, and I should have this right off the top of my head, but I won't, is a B, T, B times 2 painting. Da, 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 da. 1, 2, 3 times is a 6 bounce painting. Basically, I'll say it this way. Opaque color is a 1 bounce color. The light bounces off the surface and hits you back in the retina of your eye. A transparent color is a 6 bounce color. Trust me, maybe I'll explain that another day, but I don't feel like explaining more than that right now. Okay? But it's 1 versus 6. Okay, so my glaze is done, and I'm almost done with this little episode. I'll be pausing here in just a few minutes. But before I go, I'm going to take a rag and paint in the reverse, right? Take off anything that I want to go back closer. Now, I'm rubbing soft enough that I'm not really removing everything. I'm just removing some. If I want to remove everything, either I would rub really hard, or I would dip my rag in Gamsol, Turpenoid, whatever it is I'm using. Does that make sense? Hope it does. So it's so fun to paint with a rag. So fun. Because you just have ultimate control. It's like it lets you be a control freak without having the problems that normally accompany being a control freak. Overworked, fastidious kind of paintings. So with rubbing with a rag, you get to be a control freak without all the problems. It's the first time I've ever said it that way. No, it's kind of fun. So I do like the color that I put on over here, but I also like the way I just took it off a little bit. Now I'm going to actually come in here and blend this a little bit, where my rag took off more than I wanted. So I hope you're catching the notion that all of this is legal. Okay, if you're not able to join my next episode, which will be coming up in a few minutes, let me tell you where I'm going next. On day 2 of a painting, you get to do basically the last 3 steps of my painting process over again, which is glaze over everything, dark details, light details. So next thing coming up after this is dark details. Thanks for joining me. I'll be back in just a few minutes. right, welcome back. Hello, Toby. Good to see you, friend. I am now just getting ready to do phase step two of day two, if you will. This is on the days that you don't finish a painting in one day. What do you do? The first thing what I did in the first session today was I glazed the whole thing, several different colors, whatever color I wanted, and then lifted out with a rag. Now, step two is dark details, and step three is going to be light details. Now, in other words, this right now is another chance, yet another chance to make corrections. This glare is not working for me right now. So one of the corrections that I'm going to, and again, corrections are made without any grumpiness. Hello, Matt's Art Stuff. Good to hear from you. One of the things I've discovered is that these lookout where the people go to look through the windows, these dark things need to come down further here. So I'm going to do some of that down there. This eye, I've never finished at all. But the way I left it, it's very uncomfortable. Beyond that, I'm not sure what needs to be done. So those are two things I'm going to tackle right now. So to do this first, I'm just going to mix some dark stuff. Ultramarine blue, a little bit of oxide red to make nearly black, and then I think some viridian green to make it on the green side of black. Okay, I think that's good enough. Now let's zoom in here, maybe where you can see a little bit better. This is one of those times, by the way, when it's nice to be able to paint with your left hand, because I want a hard edge, relatively hard here, right? Which would be hard to do with your right hand. You might do something like this. Very awkward. So again, just another cheap shot. Another promotion for you guys to start painting with two hands. As I've said lately, I used to be a lot nicer about this. I was nicer because I realized how unusual it is for an artist to paint with two hands. Why should I start harassing everybody else just because I did it? Well, I've changed my tune a little bit. I think I should harass, especially you young painters. Frankly, I think it's just laziness. I mean, it's because nobody taught you. Nobody taught me. Nobody taught anybody. Michelangelo painted with two hands. Is anybody paying attention? Sort of what got me going 10 or 15 years ago. Those of you who are musicians, as I am, you know, nobody looks at a musician and says, golly, they're using two hands. Now, I realize that if my revolution takes place and everybody starts painting with two hands, I'll lose some of my marketing edge. Because right now, I get a lot of attention. You know, it's on my business card, two-handed masterpieces while you watch. You know, I get a lot of credit for painting with two hands, and if everybody else starts doing it, I'll lose that edge. But frankly, it's an edge I'm willing to lose if the art of the world gets better. Now, I think the color that I have on my brush right now is probably too dark, yeah, to tackle that eye situation. So instead of that, whoops, well, that tape ripped right, didn't it? I think I can come in here and do some details that will add just a little bit to the realism, similitude of the scene, of the painting. I'm going to cheat just a little bit here in a minute by going to a slightly less dark color, and that's the cheater. Generally speaking, you should go from dark to darker to darker, or dark to darker to darkest. Generally speaking, that's what you should do. So to go to a not quite so dark color is, in a sense, breaking one of the rules. The reason my book that's in process, the reason it's called The Breakable Laws of Painting is because, of course, all the laws can be broken. And by the way, the very first thing I say in my book is, wait a minute, I don't think there are any laws. My professor said there weren't any laws. Anybody who says there are any laws, yeah, whatever. That's the very first thing I tackle, of course, in my book, for those of you who think there aren't any laws. And it's quite simple. It's probably mostly a matter of semantics. But some people think, no, there aren't any. As soon as you learn a law, I can show you somebody who violates or breaks that law. And that is exactly correct, because every one of the laws can be broken. And that's why it's called the breakable laws of painting. That doesn't mean there aren't any, however. And people who do ugly paintings think there aren't any. Everybody who does beautiful paintings paints according to these laws, whether they call them that or not. Okay. But it is very true that once you learn the laws, you then have freedom to know when to break them. And one of the laws is darks first, lights last. Or you do darks first, and then lights after that. Okay, so I'm going to put that back up there in a minute, I think. Let me mix up a slightly less dark green now for the next step. And then it needs to be sort of a dirty green. Not too clean. Not a real clean green, so let me add some brown to it. Any old brown will do. Hello, Heather. Good to have you aboard. I've really missed all of you guys. I said that a minute ago, but I didn't tell everybody where I was. So I have been in Texas for most of the last week. Actually, a week ago, yesterday, I was sick, respiratory flu, in bed all day, which really upset me because I broke I had been, up to that point, it's not a huge deal, but I had gone for a jog 20 days in a row, and I was kind of enjoying that string. But last Thursday, my jog consisted of laying in bed and standing up and walking very slowly to the couch, where I would collapse and rest till I got up and jogged by walking very slowly back to bed. You ever had one of those days? It was almost surreal. Thank God I've not been sick enough times in my life to feel like that's normal. It was like, wow, this is weird. I can't believe that I'm worn out just walking from the bed to the sofa and so forth. Anyway, sick last Thursday, and then Friday through yesterday, my wife and I were in Texas, and you can see some of that in Daily Art Adventure number 290. If you want to see what I was doing, I was painting a wedding outside of Austin, Texas. Had a great time, and I was weak, but thank goodness I was not sick. So we had a great time, and then visited old friends down in Texas. My wife and I lived in Texas. Good, Steve. I'm glad to hear it's interesting. I hope it is. My wife and I were married. When we first got married 37 years ago, we lived in Texas. So we were visiting old friends, and it was absolutely, as people say, a little slice of heaven. It really was. We just had an unbelievably good time visiting dear, dear, dear old friends. Most of whom we hadn't seen for 20 years, some of whom we hadn't probably seen for 35. Okay, I was going to say, thank you, Deborah. I am glad I'm feeling better too. My wife and I both have a nagging cough. My wife got diagnosed. She has bronchitis for sure, and frankly, between you and me, I'm positive I have bronchitis. It's just a milder case than what my wife has. And but I'm very glad to be feeling as well as I am. Okay, I want to point out one, again, technical, if you will, detail. When you're painting dark colors, any dark color, when you're making some part of your canvas darker than it was, which I'm doing right here, you do that with transparent colors, okay? Here's a little mantra. You need to know this and paint this way. You get dark with transparent, light with opaque. Say it with me. You get dark with transparent, light with opaque. And there's some people that think, again, like every once in a while I try to tell people in a painter's group or some such thing, they think I might be wrong about that. And their paintings look like they think I might be wrong about that. Now again, once you know that rule, there are times to break it. For instance, the most common time to break that particular rule is when you're doing a portrait. Because many times in portraiture, the flesh tones, the color shifts are so subtle that it can't quite handle the bluntness of a transparent dark color. So you have to do transparent opaque or translucent opaque color. Other than that, most of the time, when you're getting dark, it must be transparent, or else it's mud. Mud is making some part of your painting darker, any part whatsoever, any little spot. Mud is making any little spot of your painting darker with an opaque color. That's what mud is, the misuse of opacity. And if you want to hear me teach on that at much greater length, just do a search in YouTube for Dan Nelson Mud. I think it's called Dan Nelson Avoiding Mud, but just Dan Nelson Mud will get you there. I've got about a 10-minute video that describes exactly what I mean by that. Okay, I'm just about done with step 2 of this day 2. Step 2, day 2 of the painting process. Step 1 was glaze over the whole thing. Step 2 is dark details. And the painting was almost finished. All I'm doing here really is making little refinements and corrections, and yes, pushing the values ever so slightly. Pushing them whichever direction I want to, pushing them darker wherever I want them slightly darker. Just as I look at it, as I look at the photograph and as I look at the painting, do I want something darker? You teach calligraphy. I love calligraphy. Thank you for that invitation. Calligraphy is my hobby, I would say. And it's a pretty serious hobby. I have 5 DVDs on the market. Heather, good question. I was reading, have I had negative impact? I don't think so, because I think, and I'm gonna check on it later today, I think I make the cut, so to speak. I think I have adequate followship and viewership. I think I need 4,000 hours a year of viewers to continue to collect. Although, good question, I am seriously thinking about getting out of the Google ad business. Feel free to send me a comment, by the way, if you think that's a good or bad idea. For one thing, it would mean you guys don't have to suffer through, a few minutes of ads with all of my videos, like we all do with everybody's. But instead, either go the PayPal donate button route, or go with, what's the word I'm looking for? Patreon, that's right. So I'm seriously considering bailing out of the Google ad business anyway. I'm sure, you can get wealthy, but I've probably made in all my years, for all my videos and just to give you some idea, and I have Right. 40,000, 42,000 viewers, subscribers, 3 million views or something like 3.5 million views. I've made about $2,500 in 9 years. So that's not a lot. That is not a lot. Okay, that's the end of this segment. I'm going to clean my brushes and be back with theoretically the last stage. Aha, Heather, that's a good point. You do YouTube Red and you don't get the ads. I'm glad to know that. That's interesting. Good. Okay, I'll be back in just a few minutes. All right, welcome back. Welcome back. So I am down to the last phase or the last stage of the painting process, which now is light opaque highlights. Good comment, Sheev. I like that. I agree. I understand. That is exactly right. Okay, last stage, light opaque. Now, that almost goes without saying. You get the mantra I was teaching a few minutes ago. You get dark with transparents, light with opaques, or you get light with opaques, darks with transparent. I will let you say it either way. Isn't that bigamy? I know my generosity is overwhelming sometimes. But you get dark with transparent colors and light with opaque. So I am down to the last stage. I'm getting light. Now, I'm trying to mix up here a very pale green. I want it to be this color. So this is opaque paint now. Quite different from what I've been doing most of the time up until now. So I'm looking at my photograph, which is above me. You can just barely see the corner of it right there. Looking at my photograph and very carefully for light areas. Speaking of looking very carefully, can I tell you one of my most recent aha moments? I was looking at somebody's artwork, somebody who I respect highly, somebody whose artwork I respect highly, whose artwork I like a great deal. I don't remember who it was. Doesn't matter. That's not the point. The point is I was looking at some good painters painting. And I'm always, anytime I see somebody who's ostensibly, that means possibly, and I don't know, better than I am. And I'm not, of course, there are a lot of people that are better than I am. I'm not so silly to think I'm the best. That's absurd. But very often my response is, well, they're better at me at this and that and this and that. So anyway, anytime I'm looking at somebody whose work is ostensibly better than mine, I'm always asking myself, wow, what do they know that I don't know yet? What are they doing that I'm not quite doing? You with me? I'm assuming that most of you do the same thing, okay? And if I could just somehow plug into the brain, into the mind of anybody who paints better than I do, and do the Vulcan mind meld, man, I would. That's what classes are supposed to be, but even in a class, it's often hard to tell exactly what's going on in somebody else's mind. I'm sorry about that. My cough manifesting itself. Hang on a second here. Let me put that back up there and grab a bottle of water. I'm about to drink right in your ear. Hope that'll fix it. Okay, looking at someone's painting that I respect, admire, and trying to do a Vulcan mind meld with them. This is one of my recent observations. Sorry, hang on. Let me try to get my throat going the right direction. This was the observation that I made. They observe better than I do. They look more carefully, more strictly, in a more disciplined manner than I do. Now that's, in a way, something for me to say because I observe in a pretty doggone careful and disciplined manner. But that was the revelation. Oh, wow. They do even more than I do. Boy, that was an insight worth gaining. Thus, by looking carefully at this print in front of me. Hey, can I show you something else? On the other hand, I don't know if I can zoom in here close enough for you to see that. Let's see if I can, okay? Hang on just a second. Let me see if you can see that. One of the last things I did on this painting before I let it dry a week ago is I did pencil lines. And I drew a little here and there and here and there. And then I just did some random scratchy lines through the whole thing. One of which ran right through the middle of this girl's forehead and down here across her eye and onto her cheek. Can you see that line? I hope you can. Tell you what, let me pick you up. Sorry for the shaky ride just for a second. Let me pick you up so that I really want you to see this line. I think you can see that. There you go. And it comes down here. You with me? Okay. First of all, I want you to know that that line has, quote unquote, nothing to do with similitude. It has nothing to do with realism. I didn't put that line there because I saw a line in the photograph. Not at all. It's an art mark. It's a arbitrary, capricious, unrelated to reality line. Well, then why did I put it there? Boy, if you have to ask that question, then you've come to the right place. Because I'm painting a painting, not a picture. I'm not painting and I mispronounced the word. You people who don't, English isn't your first language, you won't catch this. The real word is picture. 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 But I mispronounced the word on purpose, just to be ornery. I am not painting a picture of the Statue of Liberty. I am painting a painting of the Statue of Liberty. When I get all finished with this painting, the most important thing, listen to this. When I get all finished with this painting, the most important thing on the canvas will be, ready for it? Drum roll, please. The most important thing on this canvas will be paint. Whenever I finish any painting, the most important thing on the canvas, when all is said and done, is paint. Because I'm painting a painting, not a picture. So the reason that I would sometimes do something as silly as draw a line across the face of the Statue of Liberty is because the painting looks better with a line drawn across the face. Yeah, are you catching that? Some of you, that's heavy. Some of you need to hear that. In fact, I'm convinced that the biggest single distinction between wannabe painters and real painters, whatever real is, successful selling perhaps, although, it's not an economic thing. Artistically, the biggest difference. Hendrik, good question. What does a picture mean realism? A picture, I'm not painting a picture, I'm painting a painting. A picture is a slavish attempt to copy, in most cases, a photograph. That's what a picture is. That my focus is mostly on the subject matter. And a painting, my focus is not mostly on the subject matter. My focus is on paint, or to put it another way, to put it not quite so jarringly, my focus is on line, shape, the value, texture, color, value, the abstract elements or the abstract principles of design, and most especially the bare marks themselves. Great, Hendrik. Thanks. Good question. Hope that helps. Our focus as painters should always be first and foremost on the paint, on the, or another way to put that, on the marks that we are putting on the canvas. I'm saying the same thing just with different words. I hope you understand. So I'm keeping, by the way, and here's a little trick that you just saw me do. I didn't talk about it, but I pointed out this pencil line, and I'm going to stop it right here, by the way. That's enough. I'm saying to myself, okay, but that's enough. By the way, I just painted up to it on one side, on both sides with opaque paint. So I actually re-accentuated or re-emphasized that line with my opaque paint. Rather than diminish it, I actually amplified the impact of that abstract mark that I made. Okay. By the way, during the last short break that I took, I lowered my easel, lowered it down, and pulled up a stool. I find myself doing this more and more. Maybe it's because I'm getting older. But when I get to the last step, the last stage of my painting process, I find myself more and more often sitting down. Generally speaking, I like to paint standing up because the energy flows. Thank you, Hendrik. Good to hear you. Welcome. I have many viewers from Germany, which is a real mystery. Thank you so much for joining us. Delighted. Great honor I have toward the German people. The real German people. Welcome on board. Glad you're here. So I was saying I pulled up a stool and I sat down, even though most of the time I'd rather stand up. When it comes down to this stage of the painting process, I want to be quite relaxed. Thank you, Hendrik. Good to have you here. I want to be quite relaxed, and if my legs start getting sore and I start finding myself impatient, I don't want to start painting fast because my legs are tired. That's just what I'm trying to say. Does that make sense? So I just pass that on for what it's worth. And by the way, I am sitting on a stool, a high stool, not on a chair. The thought of sitting down, all the way down on a chair, sounds very awkward to me. But a stool works quite well. I think you can see what I've done in the last couple of minutes. I mixed up quite a bright color of verdigris, this green color that copper turns green, and the word for that green in English is called verdigris. I believe it's an Italian word. I couldn't prove it. In the photograph, and I've seen actually several photographs of the Statue of Liberty, this color shows up in the mid-tone areas. It doesn't show up where the sun is hitting, and it doesn't show up where in the deep shadows, but it shows up in the mid-tone and creates quite a delightful glow. There you go. There's a new discovery, by the way. The feeling that something is glowing comes from two things. Are you ready? If you want something to look like it's glowing, number one, you make the edges of that thing soft. Soft edges connote, hint at, give the impression that something is glowing. Soft edges. Many people need to learn that. if you want anything to look like it's glowing, the sun, the candle, reflections on the snow, whatever it may be, if you want something to look like it's glowing, that something should have very soft edges. Number two, if you want something to look like it's glowing, it's the midtones that often are convey the impression that something is like what I'm doing right here. Not the lights, not the darks, but the midtones. That's where the magic glow takes place. Okay, let me expand out here a little bit. Yeah, more here, some more glow underneath her chin. Very interesting doing a painting of the Statue of Liberty, because, of course, it's sort of like doing a portrait, but of course it's not, because I'm doing a portrait of a portrait. And so on one hand, you know, being able to do a human face helps a great deal when I'm painting the Statue of Liberty. But at the same time, it's not a human face. First, the color is not realistic at all. So very, very interesting. Sort of a different challenge. Hey, while I'm doing the Statue of Liberty, let me talk philosophically for just a minute. This thought came to mind while I was painting. Somebody might ask the question, well, what are you trying to say with the painting of the Statue of Liberty? And as Hendrik just reminded me a few minutes ago, right? We have people all over the world watching. Am I trying to say, by painting the Statue of Liberty, am I trying to communicate that, you know, rah, 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 the United States is the best? I'll go right ahead and say, no, that is not. But let me explain, let me tell you, and this comes from one of my other books that is even farther away from being published than the Breakable Laws of Painting book. I don't know what the title is, but it's going to be about concerning modern art. You ready? Again, this is, why am I painting the Statue of Liberty? Am I preaching a message? Am I trying to communicate a sermon? My quick answer is no. And if I were trying to preach a message or communicate a sermon, I would be prostituting my art. In fact, but most modern artists are in fact trying to communicate a message, and thereby they have prostituted their art, and I do not consider them to be artists anymore. If they are preaching, they are preachers. If they're propagandizing, they are propagandists. If they're doing any kind of teaching whatsoever, communicating, they are not acting like artists. They're acting like teachers, or preachers, or propagandists, or salesmen. Like if I were trying to, for instance, communicate a message, say, rah rah, the United States is the best, by this painting, I would be in a sense a salesman or a politician. I am not doing that. What I am, okay, so I've said that I'm not doing enough times. But what am I doing? Is art communication? Right? Now, most people in our Western civilization, they have been taught and told that art is self-expression, that artists express themselves, and that artists communicate, and artists have to get their message out. So I want you to know that what I'm about to say flies in the face, is the opposite of what the academy says, the university. I disagree vehemently, and I would like to think intelligently with the professors, art professors, those who say that art is communication. I vehemently deny that art is communication. Now, here's a funny, have I lost everybody? I may be. Maybe I'm getting too philosophical, but I've gotten this far in. Let's stick with it while I paint. Is art communication? My answer is emphatically no. If it's communication, then it's communication. It's no longer art. And as Hendrik is a graphic designer, I've spent many years as a graphic designer, and most of the time your job as a graphic designer, in fact, yes, is to communicate. Nothing wrong with that, but it's not art per se, it's now communication. Art in the service of communication. Okay, so art is not communication, but, and this is very tricky, does art communicate? The answer is absolutely yes, it does. So here, let me say that again. Is art communication? In my opinion, strong opinion, the answer is no. Does art communicate? The answer is yes. What in the world? A bunch of double talk? No, hang on. Nope, it's not a bunch of double talk. I'll try to describe it for you. Art does communicate, but it's a two-step communication process. Okay, hang on. Are anybody that's listening? I've lost. Anybody that doesn't want philosophical discourse is long since fled this channel. That's exactly right. I understand exactly what you're saying. When those of us who do use our art to communicate with, it's so nice to come back to our art where we're not trying to communicate a message or sell something, right? Exactly. I spent and I still do illustration. Same thing. Is illustration art? Well, kind of, except most of the time it's art in service of a message, which means the artist is made his art take a back seat to communicating a message. Okay, but does art communicate? Yes. Is it communication? No. Does it communicate? Yes. Okay. It's a two-step process. It's real simple once I start stuttering and just tell you what's up. Okay, here it is. I, right now, as an artist, let me zoom out just a little bit so you can see my face. I, as the artist, am communicating right now very intensely with my canvas. Did you catch that? I am bringing to bear all the intellectual understanding of the process of painting I can conjure. Thoughts about composition, color, line, shape, design, texture, value, blah, blah, blah. I am interacting extremely intensely with this canvas. Get it? Now, once the painting is finished and it goes out to the world, either an image of it on Facebook or whatever, and then the original painting. By the way, I'm going to enter this painting into Oil Painters of America. A deadline is this next week. You enter that and you don't hold your breath. You just enter and say, well, maybe. Then when, good, Toby, glad to hear it. So then let's pretend this is hanging in a gallery somewhere. When a person comes in, walks in, and stands in front of the painting and looks at the painting, the canvas communicates to the viewer. If the canvas doesn't communicate to the viewer, I have completely blown it as an artist. So I'm hoping when somebody looks at this painting, they go, it's not words. It's not like, God bless America. I mean, maybe they might do that, but that's not my business. If they want to sing God bless America when they look at this painting, that's up to them. But that's not what I'm doing. I'm doing green, orange, yellow, black, brown, light, dark, sharp, hard, soft. That's what I'm doing. But when a viewer looks, including myself, by the way, looks at this painting after it's finished, we hope, don't we? I hope that the canvas communicates with the viewer. Now, are you with me? So it's a two-step communication process. I commune with the canvas very intensely, like I'm doing right now. And then, after it's all done, hangs up somewhere, the canvas communicates with the public, with the viewer. If, and here's a very, very important if I scratch my chin, raise my eye, go, get a little devious laugh going on. If I decide, well, by golly, I have an opportunity here. If I'm communicating with the canvas and then somebody comes and looks at the canvas, I have an opportunity to communicate with them. Are you hearing me? That, my friend, is yellow flag in football, red card in soccer, kicked out of the game, eliminated, disqualified, alarm bells go off, bring in the art police. I have ceased being an artist the moment I even try to communicate directly with the viewer. Because I have prostituted my art. It is no longer me communing with orange, yellow, green, dark, light, and so on. It's me, deviously, I might add, trying to figure out how I can manipulate the viewer with a message, politically, psychologically, spiritually, religiously, scientifically. Anyway, if I'm trying to get a message across, I am no longer an artist. I might be a darn good messenger, and the message I'm communicating might be a very good message, one I believe in, what I'm sincere about. Save the whales. Blech. That's because I hate cliche in every form, especially cliche sermons. Save the whales. Global warming. Ah. Whether or not I believe or want global warming to stop, who doesn't want global warming to stop? If I see my job as an artist to preach a sermon about global warming, then I'm no longer an artist. I'm a preacher because I'm preaching a sermon about global warming. Whew. I'm glad you're letting me get this off my chest, by the way. Okay, back to painting. So that was just a little detour. That's a different book that I'm writing, by the way. And I started it a couple years ago, and I've got 250 or 300 pages of it written. But I decided to take a detour from that one and switch back over to the book that is about how to paint. Okay. I'm done for the moment with this verdigris. Let me zoom back in again. Verdigris is the name for that greenish color that copper turns when it's left out in the elements for a long time. We're very familiar with that color. Now, I'm going to do something right now that is very, very, very important and counterintuitive to some of you. Bobo, I'm going to have to read that good long comment more carefully later on. Thank you for making that comment. And if I don't respond to it later, please put it in the comment section. Put it in the comment section so I can respond to it later, Bobo. I appreciate it very much. That was more than I could catch all at once. It looked good. Okay, now, next thing. This is very important, and some of you if you're a student, pay attention to this. You can see that this Statue of Liberty has this strange, big, orange-red, hello, Renee, fellow Canadian, good to hear from you, has this big orange-red color down here, and has this orange sub-theme running throughout the entire painting. I am now, and all of that is underneath, and again, if you want to see how that got there, why it got there, and how it got there, please go back to Daily Art Adventure, I think 278. I can't promise that's the number, but it's around there somewhere when I started this painting. I'm going to do something very important right now. And if any of you paint using the traditional toned canvas trick, and the most traditional toned canvas is when you paint the entire canvas Viridian, warm red, orange-ish red. And if you don't do it, I'm hoping you recognize that you know people that do that. I actually enjoy that technique very much and consider what I do sort of a variation on that. Those of you who paint the toned canvas trick, here's something you should do, and not everybody knows it because I see people failing at this all the time. If you paint using a toned canvas, like I'm doing right now, this is all orange-red. I've mixed up that same color. What was my very first underpainting color, I'm now coming back with an opaque version of that color and highlighting it, bringing it on top. Why am I doing that? Again, because I know something that some of you don't know, so I'm about to tell you. I want all my secrets to get out. I want everybody to know everything I know. And then some. Here it is. A breakable law of painting. Our eyes get a kick out of being fooled. First of all, let that sink in for just a minute. Our eyes get a kick. They enjoy being fooled. Now, again, you need to let that sink in because everything in our culture and intuition would say, no, no. Let me say it another way. Our eye, and of course, when I say eye, I mean the visual part of our brain, but I'll call it our eye. Our eye enjoys being manipulated. We enjoy being manipulated. Go back to my first verbiage. Our eye enjoys being tricked. Our eye enjoys being tricked by what's on top of what. Now, it enjoys being tricked in many, many, many ways, but this is one of the most simple and direct, straightforward ways our eye enjoys being fooled. So, most of this orange down here, you understand, is underpainting. It's everything is on top of that orange. But here I am now. I've mixed up basically the same exact color, and I'm coming and doing some of that on top, which means our brain starts going, our eye starts going, our eye starts going, wow, I can't tell exactly what's on top of what. I'm acting out what's going on inside our brain. And guess what? Our brain gets a distinct aesthetic buzz from that confusion. We like it. That's exactly, Renee. Exactly. My job is to bring everything I am to the canvas, period. Of course. Good job. And then the viewer, if he brings everything he or she is to the canvas, we have some kind of delightful psychic connection. But if I can ruin that connection by trying to communicate, preach a message, as you can tell, I'm pretty passionate about that. And most of the 20th century, by the way, most modern art, my wife and I, one of the last times we went into a museum, the modern art section of a museum, we came out, and my wonderful, sweet wife, she was visibly angry. And I didn't disagree with her one bit. I just had to explain to her why she was angry, because she felt she'd been screwed with. She felt like she'd been tricked, and absolutely she had, actually. Because she went into the museum thinking she was going to look at art, and instead, the modern artists. Will I be doing a painting of Trump? I would tell you this. That's a funny question. I doubt it extremely much. But listen, if I did do a painting of Trump, same rules would apply. If you got the impression, no. If I did my painting of Trump in order to make you love him, I would be violating the trust. If I did a painting of Trump to make you hate him, I would be violating the trust. Now, please, let me add real quickly here, by the way, because I'm not always nice. Most of my fellow artists, the ones who are quote unquote modern artists, they disagree with me on this. I disagree with the university. I disagree with the museums, because most of modern art has been preaching sermons. Now, I'm so confident that I'm writing this. I'm not sure that I'll see this turn around in my lifetime, but I'm absolutely confident, because you can only fool all the people some of the time, that the day will come when the scales will fall from people's eyes and they'll go, we have been, I really want to, as you can imagine, I want to use stronger language here, but people will go, wait a minute, those artists have been screwing with us now for 120 years. That's what I believe. And the day will come when everybody will go, that's the end of that. So anyway, we came out of the museum, and my wife was angry, not just irritated, downright angry, because she'd been screwed with. What she experienced in there was not art. What she experienced in there was she was being preached at. Now, Nathan, that's all right. That's all I'm going to say about that. See, it is so taken for granted in our pop culture that art is about communication. It is so assumed, and it's wrong. It's also that topic is listed in several places in my big book. One of them is the common myths about art. One of the most common myths is that art is communication. Another is that art is self-expression. Both of those are ridiculous and untrue, in my not so humble opinion. Yeah, boy, there's exactly, Hendrik. There's a strong, all kinds of messages there, aren't there? Fascinating history, to say the least. So, by the way, I've said bad things about modern art, or what could be construed. I love the freedom of modern. I love all modern art that is not trying to preach me a sermon. Any kind of art that's not trying to preach me a sermon, I love it. Unfortunately, a lot of art under the general name of modern. I agree, Toby. I mean that's but that would eliminate abstract painting, and I love abstract painting. I do quite a bit of it myself, and pure abstract painting is, I mean, there's good and there's bad, and there's an awful lot of bad. Some people think there aren't any rules for abstract painting. Well, my opinion is when you paint abstract, all you have is the rules. Yeah, I'm at a point now where I'm enjoying this conversation so much, I'm almost distracted, not thinking about what I'm doing. So I better be careful. I'm nearly finished. I'm nearly finished with this painting, and I better be careful not to go too far with it. That would be a shame. When is a painting finished? The real answer is before you think it is, as an artist, and I know that. I preach that to myself all the time. When is a painting finished? Before I think it is. So, but just because you know that trick doesn't mean you still don't know when to quit. Ah. Let me zoom in here so I hope you can see this a little bit better. I'm having a lot of fun doing some real fine details on this face. Not realism details, details of color, abstract details. In fact, let me give you a bumpy ride again. I'm going to pick you up off your and let you come and see this up close. That is right, Mr. Connection. I can't see your whole name there, but that's exactly right. That is what's good about modern art. Absolutely. Unfettered experimentation. Exactly. I love it. That's what's good about it. As long as they keep doing that, that's the kind of stuff I love. It's when they spill over into preachiness that I don't like it. Very good mindset, Hendrik. Very good mindset. It is a journey, and in fact, what you just said, that's sort of like a corollary to what I was saying earlier. If I set out to communicate a message to the viewers, then I have violated their trust. Uh, a very close correlation to that, a corollary to that, is um, if I think if I know exactly where a painting is going before I start, that's also a violation, not of my viewers, but of my canvas. The canvas that is waiting for me to work on it. Um, okay, I'm going to do at least one more thing before I finish, and I'm quite happy with that, I think. Of course, I reserve the right to look at all this tomorrow with fresh eyes and change my mind. But I'm mixing up now a pale blue color. Right at the moment, it's a cool blue, kind of a slightly purple-ish. This might be too light. I'm not sure. Hmm. Yeah, that makes me a little nervous, even though I should be bold. Good for you, Heather. Yeah, I think everybody should at least experiment, play with abstract painting. I really do. It teaches you what real painting is. and then you go back and try to apply those same rules to your representational painting. I mean, in a way, we're messing with words because all paintings are abstract. All paintings, no matter how realistic they are, they're abstract. They're not real. They're an abstraction of, but that's, of course, that's not the way normal people use the word. So, of course, I'm playing with semantics a bit here, but as artists, I think it's very, very important for us to understand that all paintings are abstract. There's not a great gulf, not a great divide between those of us who do representational paintings and those of us who do abstract paintings. That is the only beef, if you will, the only complaint that I have with, I don't know how many of you are familiar with the reactionary movement in the art world, reacting against modern painting. I was nervous too, Heather, for a second. Reacting against all the ugly abstract painting of the 20th century. And like one of the chief movements is the Art Renewal Center, ARC. If you want to see what I'm talking about, go to Art Renewal Center, ARC, and take a look at their stuff. And they do beautiful work. And I agree with much of their sentiment and so forth. The problem with them is they've gone too far, and many of them eschew or denigrate abstract painting, which I think is too bad, because the enemy, so to speak, is not abstract painting. And the enemy is never people. If you think enemy people, your people are your enemy, you're a mess. But the enemy might be, the enemy to what? The enemy to progress, the enemy to peace, the enemy to growth as a race and a planet. The enemy is never people, it might be ideas. So I like the Art Renewal Center movement. I like their thoughts, except that they're, in my opinion, except that they're wrong about the subject of abstract painting. Nothing wrong with abstract. All paintings are abstract. And for most of us who do, as I do, representational paintings, by the way, I love teaching abstract. It's one of my favorite topics to teach. Partly because I have an attitude, and I think that so much abstract painting is lousy. Now, not all of it. Some of it is breathtakingly beautiful and good and skilled and knowledgeable, but a lot of people who can't paint. Yes, Bobo, that's a good. Yeah, maybe it's the heroic. The heroic orientation, disposition of the face, don't you think? It does have that feeling, and that's kind of fun. Again, I didn't do that on purpose. You know, I didn't try to say let's do something heroic. I just tried to do something good, but it does have that feeling, and I like that. Thank you. I was going to say, most of us who do representational painting, I'm a big believer that we should all at least take a foray, a detour into abstract painting, occasionally or at least once. You know, a big detour once, or every once in a while we should do some abstract painting. There's an awful lot in the Art Renewal Center. There's an awful lot of snobbery. What is snobbery? I'll give you a definition. Here it is. Snobbery is identifying yourself. Hendrik, I'll get to that in a second. Snobbery is identifying yourself by the things you despise or look down upon. That's snobbery. I don't like that. They're no good. That's bad. Okay? Then I don't think any good thing in our universe should be despised. Okay, what is there to teach? Well, glad you asked, Hendrik. I actually teach that there are 6 categories of abstract painting. Now, I don't know if I can list them all here all at once. Let me try to do this real quick. 6 approaches or 6 impulses, 6 types of abstract painting. Now, I have this on, I probably have a YouTube video on this somewhere, so if you just want to YouTube, Dan Nelson, 6 categories of abstract painting. You can probably find it. But one is kinesthetic, compositional, chance, and I'm not going to come up with 6. Kinesthetic, compositional, process, chance. I'm missing 2, but it's things like that. And then the next question would be, well, which one is the best approach to abstract painting? And my answer is all 6. If you want to be a good abstract painter, you employ all 6 of these techniques into your, and I just listed a few. I didn't list 6 right now. You employ all 6 of these in your painting process. And most people who dabble and who are bad at abstract painting, they certainly do not utilize all 6. Okay, I am just about done here. And actually, to tell you the truth, I'm violating a principle right now, and that is I've been right up close to my canvas for too long of a time. It really is wise to stand back and go back, but I've been talking to you guys and having fun. I mean, at the moment, I think it looks good, but I need to take a break, go away from it, come back and look at it. But I think that's the end of this broadcast today. Thank you so much for joining me. If you want to leave a comment, I will definitely answer it later. And can I go back and see comments that you've left? Hang on, let me try here. I'm not sure that I can. Let's hang on. So here's my other phone that is showing me what you guys are seeing. And it seems to me I should be able to turn on chats, but none of the chats have turned on here. So I don't know what I'm doing wrong. Sorry about that. Bear with me. I'm still working through the technology of all this YouTube tech. This will be the end of this broadcast. If I do another adventure today, it'll surprise me because I think I might be done. Thank you so much, you guys. Appreciate it. And if you like it, please subscribe, of course. Please give me a thumbs up. And if you're an artist, subscribe, follow me, and tell your fellow artists about me, would you? Thanks, BJ. Appreciate it. All of your good comments. Appreciate it so much.